I don't want convenience or quote simplicity in my tabletop RPGs. On the left is Lord of the Rings MMO Repair Anvil. It was a DLC item that made going out into the more desolate areas of the world more convenient for a real world monetary price. I'm not saying I do hate DLC, but this isn't some anti DLC rant. What I'm saying is that Anvil was a matter of convenience and a lack of reality. It doesn't matter that it was fantasy. It's still unrealistic, even in Lord of the Rings, to be hauling an anvil around while you're on your trek to Mordor. Or to have everything you could ever need inside this magical bag of holding that is the inventory slot for most FPSs. Even MMOs that have limited slots, they're still ridiculously high, and there's 100 ways around them, like being able to teleport back to your camp, like in Baldur's Gate, where you have almost infinite storage capacity back there, and you can switch it in and out and all that stuff. I don't want those in my tabletop. I'm not looking to, quote, simplify the game so that it's just a paper video game. Video games, as neat as they were and are, at least in some cases these days, was my backdrop, my fallback position when all my people weren't available to play a tabletop. I loved microprose games in the late 80s and played the hell out of them, like M1 Tank Platoon, and loved it. I played that game so much I literally wore holes in the diskettes switching them out because I had a Tandy that required you had two diskettes and you had to keep changing them. But I would turn that SOB off faster than you can say THACO. If anybody said, hey, let's go play a tabletop game instead, I would take Micro Armor miniatures game like Close and Destroy over M1 Tank Platoon any day of the week. And as much as I'd love to go back and play that game and have from time to time, even today if somebody said, why are you playing that video game? I got some Micro Armor on the board. Get out of my way, bro. I'm getting to that board. I love that stuff. I want PCs and video games in general were a shower. The tabletop war game and RPG was a hot tub soak. I don't want limits. I don't want conveniences. I don't want shortcuts. I can get that when I turn on an electronic device. When I'm going analog, I want a big fat steak. I want everything all the time. I want everything represented. It doesn't have to be ultra complicated. I don't have to use Excel spreadsheets, though I'm not afraid to use them and use them in conjunction with many war games because they were cool to play. I looked for ways to do it as opposed to always talking about why you can't. I was more about how you can, and still am. And that's why you constantly hear me, if you listen, which you probably don't, but because I don't think I get much traction that way. But I'm always railing on this. God, everything about simplicity and everything is about, oh, it's clunky and bad. That sucks. That's boring. I've heard these constant complaints over and over for 40 years. Since 1980, it's been more and more of that. Louder and more numerous. This chorus of everything sucks if you have any detail in it at all. Ugh. I've got a PC for that. I can go play my Repair Anvil MMO if I can't get anybody to play TTRPG. But if I've got to turn my TTRPG into the Repair Anvil MMO in order to play, why would I? Why wouldn't I just turn on my computer and go play those shortcut convenience games? Outdoor survival You had to live through being out there. It was a game of survival. And every trek into the wilderness in D&D should be a sub-game of survival. Not survival against a bugbear or a dragon. That's out there too. Instead of going to, you know, the Rocky Mountains where you might run into a bear or a mountain lion or something like that, you might run into a dragon or a bugbear in a fantasy one. But it's still, the wildlife may kill you, the vegetation may kill you, hell, the water, if it's not done right, may kill you. May not. But the weather might kill you. And the challenge is to be informed enough, to be rugged enough, to be lucky enough to make it. Remember Oregon Trail? If you're old enough, remember the old video game Oregon Trail? It was a blast for its time. It was a top classic. Everybody remembers it. Christ, it was probably in every public school or whatever. And you could just die of dysentery. Because sadly, a lot of people just died of things like dysentery when they were heading west back in that time of American history. It's a consideration. Luck should play into it. You shouldn't be so attached to a paper character in a tabletop game that you want to remove risk from it. And we didn't play with just everybody's got one character and there's 5 people. We played with as many people as we could get to sit at that table for the session, and they all had more than one character, or they had one character and hirelings. Whatever it was like an arcade game. Here's your life on the board. Here's the 3 down on the lower left corner like Pac-Man. And if you lose one, you draw out of the pile of the rest and keep on playing. Because people die in dangerous situations. I don't mean to sound too hardcore or whatever, but that was part of it. It was the risk. And I want that. That's why you hear me say the things I say. It sounds like it's not popular, and a lot of people just, I think, shut me off or whatever. But that's where I'm at. I don't want to rocket through levels. I want it to be a long slog to get to the next level. Because you just don't improve over a week. All the great players of games, regardless of their natural talent, took that natural talent and forged it into skill through practice and determination. I want that in my game if I'm at the table. If I'm playing an MMO with my buddy who's like, well, you know, those TTRPGs are kind of hardcore. Okay, we'll play on easy level in the video game where, you know, you can have a semi-truck load's worth of gear and all that crap. So that's why I rail so hard against, quote, you know, this one-page rule simplicity stuff. I want to soak and submerge myself in a game. I don't want to just spritz some water on it because anything else bogs the game down. It never bogged the game down, and I played with a bunch of spasmodic, hyperactive teenage boys.